Good morning, Merry Marvelites. Yes, indeed. We're here for some Marvel talk. It is myself, Christian Bladt, joined by the wonderful, now who am I going to say is wonderful? Both of them, Michael Shirley and Rachel Goodman. See, your screen says Rachel Radner, but then I'm like, oh, but you're Rachel Goodman. And then online it's at Rach Goodman and then Rachel Radner author. I should just call you Rachel, like Cher or Madonna, fine. One of those names.
That's fine. Yeah, I just have two. For a while there, I had an acting name and a writing name, and I'm leaning more towards Radner anyway. So,
well, Michael's writing name, Michael's acting name, Michael's hosting name, all Michael Shirley. So it helps. Yeah. It's consistent.
Yeah.
Whereas my modeling name is just Blackcast, so that I can promote the podcast. So
I want to see your modeling shots.
No, you don't. And look here in the chat, Rock620, Daniel Drew. Hi, guys. Great to see everybody. We love having people join us live for the show. Yes, we are getting questions. They're starting to creep up a little bit more on Twitter. Hey, where's the show? It's like, well, that show is having a rest right now, on hiatus, as they say. But we do this show, which is basically the exact same show.
Bootleg.
I would say that this bootleg version is better because Xia is very rarely on it, and that makes it a better show.
Oh, burn.
Yeah, well, she's not here, so, although I did see her this week. Cami Egan says, hey, Marvel folks. Hey, Cami Egan. So, anyway, it is legitimately disappointing that Xia is not here. One, because I pretend that I don't like her, but I guess she's all right. But because we have Captain Marvel news, and anybody who's a fan of that show, fan of the podcast, if you follow her on Twitch, she'll always tell you how much she doesn't like Captain Marvel. I love the character. I love the Carol Danvers character. I like the movie. I think that I liked her better in Endgame, even though she was only in it a little bit. Yeah. So that's a weird feeling, But we have this announcement that Nia DaCosta, who directed this reboot of Candyman that's not out, but she will be the director for Captain Marvel 2. And the first source I heard for this, I was like, yeah, I don't know. But then you start to see enough sources where you're like, okay, this sounds like it could be intriguing. She has a movie out called Little Woods. I have not seen it, so I'm not familiar with her. But I think that this follows kind of the template, Rachel, where they will take directors who have done very different sorts of films, but not done a lot of films, and give them a Marvel opportunity. But what do you think about this announcement? This announcement in particular, Rachel?
I think it's going with Marvel's vision, and that they are going to start doing more horror for their films. That's kind of what we've been hearing with some of the upcoming movies, that they're going to be emulating more of the horror genre. And so picking Nia DaCosta, who, like you mentioned, Christian, who is going to be doing, who did the Candyman reboot, which that movie looked amazing. Like how there's those horror movies where even if you're not a fan of horror, you want to go and watch them. Well, that was it for me. I'm not a huge horror fan, but Candyman looked like one of those movies where you just kind of had to see it because it just seemed like it was going to be amazing. So the reboot, that is. And so I think it definitely fits this next phase of what they're doing with Marvel. And I like the idea that we're going to get, I love the idea that we're getting another female director. So I am all for that, obviously.
Yeah, I got a lot less.
You're cutting out a little bit.
For the Candy found
sorry, I don't know why that's funny.
That happens, but so if it was the Sammy Davis Jr.
I'm like crying. I can't.
Didn't think it was that funny, but I'm glad someone appreciated it.
You just didn't hear it how we did.
Here we'll go. That's fine. We've got some. We got a negative comment in the chat. Captain Marvel's going to suck. Are they going to recast her with someone who can act?
Oh.
I mean, I think even if you didn't like Captain Marvel, I know that's why I brought him in. I think Brie Larson is a very talented actress. I liked her in Captain Marvel, but even if you didn't like her in Captain Marvel, it's hard to say like, oh yeah, she's terrible as an actress. But I don't know. I mean, maybe that's.
Yeah.
I've been watching her since Scott Pilgrim. You know, I think that was the first time I saw her.
No, I think she's a.
No, I agree.
I actually, here's the thing with Captain Marvel. It was not my favorite movie of the Marvel franchise, but I think it had its moments, and I did like the message that they brought to it, and I liked the twist that they had with the character. And so I personally did like it, but I can see why people had their issues with it. The other thing is that Clark Gregg was in it, and he's one of my favorites. So just for that reason alone, I have to like the movie on some level.
And by the way, not usually in the chat on this show, Hubby Joe points out that's Rachel's husband, whose name I assume is Joe. But imagine if it wasn't, and he was just Hubby Joe. He also liked Captain Marvel. So, Michael, your thoughts on Captain Marvel? This announcement of sort of a newer director who has mostly done genre stuff. What are your thoughts about one, Captain Marvel, and then this announcement?
Well, I think they're going to save a lot of money. Candyman hadn't even come out yet, so I don't know where they got this confidence. But I will say, from watching the Candyman trailer, I want to think the director had a lot to do with that, but I thought that it was pretty. I mean, like last week I was talking about like S.H.I.E.L.D. is really hard for me to watch because it's so dull and it's like so monochrome. And the Candyman trailer it's almost like candy. Like it's really colorful. And I think that will fit really well into the Marvel universe. You know, I really don't know what to expect from her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued. I can't say I'm going to go and run out and see that movie right now. But Little Woods. But I'm intrigued. I'm like I kind of want to know more about what she's done. So I am intrigued in that. And let's see, who did I have there? It was Daniel Drew says she's lovely. I don't know. I think that Brie Larson brings the right amount of attitude towards it. And she's also, if you follow her on social media, she's having a lot of fun in quarantine and doing a lot of things over there. So I don't know. Maybe she knows that she has a little bit of a likability problem, but I don't know. She seems fine to me. And
people, I hate it when people say, they don't like Brie Larson. And it's like, well, just because she's not playing the same game that everyone else is playing, doesn't mean that she's a strong woman. She's not going to let you ask her stupid questions. I think there's something really great about that.
No, I do agree. Joey Lang has a good question. Do you sense that Nia DaCosta, as the director for Captain Marvel 2, do you think the movie would be a lot darker than the first movie? I mean, sort of what Rachel was saying, maybe that's what they're looking for. And I can't remember if Michael, I can't remember if this was on air or off air when we talked to Chris Claremont. I think it was off air. This wasn't a secret conversation, not this part, but we talked about this idea of them introducing Rogue in a Captain Marvel movie because she's so tied to Carol Danvers. And if they were to do that and she were to steal her powers and, some of her memories or all of her memories, that would actually be a very dark film. So if they tell a dark story, I think that gives them the opportunity, but I don't think they're going to have Rogue take her powers in her second movie. You know what I mean? I think that they might want to have her around for a little while,
I feel like 90% sure that Captain Marvel's going to be gone after the second movie.
Interesting.
Really?
Do you think that's because...
I think for several reasons. I think she's too powerful. I've been saying this all along.
Yeah.
She's just way too powerful. You've got to kind of level the playing field a little bit. I think that Kamala Khan, all this is happening. I think she's going to replace her. I also read that one of the Marvel actresses who is a really big role in the MCU, who's only doing 2 movies and then she's out. And I think that that's Brie Larson. Other people are saying that has something to do with the Wasp, the new Wasp that's being signed. I don't know, but I just, she's too powerful. I think that will really be crazy to the fans. I've always had a problem that the stakes aren't high enough. I don't even think the in-game stakes were high enough. I think she's going to be gone. I think she's going to be moved on to her next big project.
What are your thoughts on all of that, Rachel?
Well, I would love to see Kamala Khan, number one. I hope we do, no matter what. So that's my first thought there. But also, I can definitely see what you're saying, Michael, with the fact that Carol Danvers, she is very powerful. And I feel like she was kind of, the Deus Ex Machina that came in at the end of Infinity Wars and basically stepped in and said, hey, I'm here. I'm going to help you guys win this. And there she was. And yeah, so I agree. It has to be, I feel like she is the power, she is the force that can pretty much win any game, or not just a game, but any war. I guess I should put it more like that. But that being said, I would like to see her for a little bit longer, at least, obviously in this next movie, but then I'd like to see her in another Avengers movie before we get rid of her completely and move on to someone else. But I agree, if we do have someone that powerful, it does make it a little bit easy for the heroes to win, and there aren't as many stakes. And suddenly it's like, okay, well then who can we get that's even more powerful that as an antagonist to kind of bring her down?
Well, from the end of Guardians 2, we see the sort of the development of Adam Warlock, and that's an incredibly powerful being. But yeah, are we going to get somebody like the Sentinel? What are some other characters that we might get brought in who are that level of power? Now, having her run into Rogue, maybe just taking some of her powers. Like if she can't fly anymore, that really cuts down on a lot of what she can do. Yes, she still has all that cosmic energy, but
I could see that happening too.
Yeah. And as for Kamala Khan, the last reports is that would be a Disney Plus show. So I don't quite know how that works, but maybe it's like a 6-part origin and then she ends up in the movies. So
I've been hearing, from what I've been reading,
is
that she will be in Captain Marvel 2. To what extent? I don't know.
And the Monica Rambeau Spectrum / the other Captain Marvel, the expectation is that character will also be in Captain Marvel. Probably not as Captain Marvel, but
there's so many reasons to get rid of her. She's so expensive. She's too powerful. Like, I don't know. They're trying to do like Young Avengers, basically. I don't know. I don't see her being around very long.
Let me catch up with a few comments in the chat. Daniel Drew, I feel like if she's out dealing with space stuff, Carol could still be there every now and then. Yeah, I think if she's having sort of that level of adventures where she does tend to stay off in space, and she flies in at the end of Endgame, to help beat Thanos once and for all. But if she stays out in space, being that powerful might not be as much of a problem. Like when you think about how powerful somebody like Thor actually is.
Or Galactus.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So if you have a threat like Galactus, that will mean something. And, I don't know how well she would do against Galactus. Rubik's Cube Barb has another. Rubik's Cube Barb is coming in hot today. I love it.
Coming in hot. I like it.
This is exactly what we like. Yeah. How are the endgame stakes not high enough? They killed every original Avenger except Thor, who's going to be replaced by Natalie Portman, which I like her, but not as Thor.
I wasn't trying to say the stakes weren't high in that movie. I just meant that going forward.
I am.
Someone like Carol Danvers, she really literally was the Deus Ex Machina who came in and saved the day of Endgame.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did like that Thanos figured out a way that he could stop being pummeled by her, and that her and Scarlet Witch, given enough leeway and support around them, they probably each of them could have individually beat him, which I think was interesting. But that's the way that that it unfolded. But yeah, I think keeping her out of most of the movie, which by the way, that is not actually what they did. They didn't send her off into space to keep her out of the movie. I think they cut out some storylines with her. Like that's why she gets a haircut, because she runs into a younger version of herself. And so this was the one with the short hair. And then the past Carol Danvers was the one with the long hair. So that was like, the movie was already 3 hours. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't film any more than that. Leave stuff on the cutting room floor. Worked fine as it was. And really, when you think about the fact that it's really a 5.5 hour 2-part movie, we didn't need all that. But
Yeah.
I do think it works the way that they used her. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I think so too. And I think that, I mean, that's the sense that I got with her, is that she was off having her own adventures and that she literally just stopped in to pretty much help out for a second and then she was on her way. So I don't know. I'd like to see her step in, as, another commenter said, every so often to help out the Avengers. But I really feel like she will be doing her own thing. And I want to see that storyline. I'm assuming this is what we're getting in Captain Marvel too. But I want to see the storyline that pretty much picks up where we left her at the end of the first movie, and what we end up seeing in Endgame, because there's a lot there that we really need to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, I would definitely like to fill in those blanks. I wonder if they make the decision to fill in that timeline or they actually just bring her up to modern times. I think if her second film is kind of a catch-up film like that, I think that means we'll definitely get more of her, because I think that they'll use her in the present timeline whenever they get rid of her. Look, they're going to cycle through everybody at some point. So it's more a matter of like when they won't have her anymore, as opposed to if. I mean, she won't be around forever. Daniel, adding on the comment that I had, that the rumors are Kamala will appear in an MCU property before her show. And depending on Captain Marvel 2, when it comes out, it could be elsewhere. So yeah, I mean, we might meet her there. I'm glad we're going to get that story one way or the other. I think that some of the stuff they have planned for Disney Plus, this wave that we're still waiting on them to finish, it's interesting. But I think getting to characters like Ms. Marvel and She-Hulk and somebody that Michael and I were talking about beforehand, Moon Knight, just getting to these really different characters, I want to see what they do with them. So we're talking about all these movies coming out, but there's, of course, the fundamental problem with talking about movies is, what are they making movies for right now if there's going to be no theaters to see them in? We had the announcement earlier this week that sort of a very strange turn of events for Mulan, that it's going to be on Disney Plus, but it's like Disney Plus video on demand, where it's $30.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it's really ballsy.
Yeah,
really ballsy.
Just for example, when they released The Rise of Skywalker earlier before it came onto Disney Plus, even that was only $20, and that was with behind the scenes features.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's, you have that, Trolls 2 was the big one that they had, because that was the first one that went out to video on demand. But the Judd Apatow movie, King of Staten Island, which I enjoyed, I did spend $20 to rent that. But I think that what I read about Mulan is that $30 doesn't get it for just 2 days. I think you own it at that point, and that's why the price point is so much higher.
But that makes sense, because that when they were releasing the other movies for $20, you would own them too.
Well, no, like Trolls 2, you only had it for 24 or 48 hours.
Well,
you had to keep renting it. And that's why it made so much money, was because it's for kids. And so, your kid watches something, they're like, I want to watch that thing again. I'm like, great, that's another $20. So I showed them Trolls 1, which was $7, and I own it now. So I also took them to the drive-in to see Trolls 2. So they don't think it lives on their TV. So I feel like I outsmarted the system, but that's getting a little in the weeds here. So this idea for Mulan, of course, immediately that turned people into saying like, all right, well, clearly that's what's going to happen for Black Widow and the much maligned New Mutants, which we always have to point out with New Mutants. If New Mutants premieres digitally, because of the deal that Fox struck when they were still Fox, it has to premiere on HBO. So for it to premiere digitally, it'll premiere on HBO Max. So that doesn't do Disney any good. They don't want to give HBO an original film of theirs. They would rather never release it than give it to HBO, which is starting to feel like the option. But when it comes to Black Widow, I will give my opinion first. I have people who disagree with this as the most likely scenario. Even if it takes 3 years, that movie's going to come out in the theater. They're not going to let you own it at home first. They spent way too much money. It's too important. and they understand the bottom line for how much money that generates for Disney, who it's strange to think about Disney being hard up for cash, but the money's not coming in the way that it was. In fact, that's Walt calling right now. He's asking what happened.
BRB.
Yeah. But so I'll ask you first, Michael, what do you think is the most likely thing to happen with the Black Widow movie?
I mean, if things are going to be like this till like 2022, I mean, they're going to have to release it. You know, like, I don't know. I don't think any of us really know what's going to happen, but I feel like we're going to be stuck in all of this at least as long as we have, and probably longer. So it's just, I don't know. I think it's more interesting to think that Disney is doing this. I mean, I don't think there's really any way to tell what's going to happen with the Black Widow movie, but I don't know. I really kind of like that they did that. I think charging that price for it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone's really been chomping at the bit to see Mulan. So I mean, I can see people, you know, we'll go with our kids or whatever, but like, I don't know. I just don't. This might sound crazy. I think that it would have been way bigger for them to just release it for free. You get all these new subscribers. I mean, say, all right, you're going to eat a little bit maybe on this movie, but then you've got these people that are never going to cancel their subscription.
Right. Well, they did that with Hamilton because that was supposed to be a theatrical release. But go ahead.
A little different. Yeah. Here's my take on it. First of all, I've been reading that Disney is, you know, obviously like so many other entertainment companies at this point, that Disney is also taking a pretty harsh blow and losing, a significant amount of money just because they are not able to release certain things. And I don't know how well, I mean, I'm sure they're making a profit on a subscription service, but, I feel like just in general, they've taken a hit with everything going on. And to me, this charging $30, even if it's going to be to buy a digital copy of a movie, I don't think a lot of people are going to do that. If we're talking about Mulan, when it comes to Black Widow, I feel like more people would pay $30 for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so I feel like that would have been the better marketing solution if that's what they were trying to do. But I mean, none of us, like you said, Michael, none of us can really predict what they're going to do with this. But my guess would be that they would wait, just like you said, because I don't see them doing what they've done with Mulan with Black Widow, just because too many people are going to want it. That's too big of a property for them.
Right. Let me bring this comment from Kame Egan. I think a film like Mulan was going to make money with a theatrical release, but the Marvel films are box office gold and should have a theatrical release. You have to think about it in terms of the bigger picture of the businesses impacted by this. So for the idea that movie theaters will one day open, they do have to have movies that are going to bring people in there. How many people are going to go in to go see a triple feature, the 3 Back to the Future movies? I mean, I would go to the drive. I would go to the drive-in for that. I might actually go to the drive-in this weekend to see a double feature of Goonies and the Gremlins, but we'll see if that happens. But again, I'm in my car. But so like this movie, and when you look out to, obviously the other big one is, of course, Warner Brothers has Wonder Woman 1984. And there's this Christopher Nolan movie Tenet that, keeps getting floating around in space, like Interstellar. But we have this, we have these big movies that industry needs to have those movies come out. Now, here's the one caveat I have. How much longer is Disney going to keep taking a financial hit? If their theme parks, well, now look, Disney World's open and Shanghai's open. So they have a little bit of theme park business. They're doing really well with Disney Plus, but if they feel like they need an influx of cash, I could see them at least consider putting out something, maybe doing, I don't think they'd let you own Black Widow. If it's not going to come, if it wouldn't come out for say another year from right now, they would try and figure out a way maybe to own it, maybe having like a one-time stream or something. I don't quite know what the business model is, but I think if it comes out for the same way as Mulan, then I think that they're in more trouble than we realized, because but I don't think they're going to get that much money. I mean, yeah, it's $30 a person, but it's like you bring a family of 4 to see it in the movie theater. That's at least $60, for the same household.
My thing is Mulan. Okay, obviously Mulan is one of the Disney animated films that I grew up with. I love the animated film to the point where I would go and see Mulan. Like, I'm part of their target audience here, but I'm not going to, even if it's to buy a movie, I'm not going to pay $30 for it.
For you wouldn't pay $30 for Black Widow?
Oh, sorry, for Mulan.
Oh yeah, Mulan. No. I'm not gonna. Yeah,
Black Widow, I'd be more inclined.
Look, if I really want the Mulan story, somewhere in this house is a VHS of the original animated version. I'll just watch that. If I really want the Mulan story, that's how I'll get it. Yeah, Black Widow. I would pay $30 to have it in my house, especially if that was the only way to see it. But there's a lot of other movies that I don't think that I would. Movies that, maybe like, how sometimes you might go to the movies by yourself on like a weekend afternoon because you're like, I don't really know what else to do. So I'll do that. So I think that they have to be very careful with it. Again, Barb, with this comment, if they push and it goes too much further, they will broker a deal with Amazon or just buy some kind of at-home kind of deal from cable providers. And then Rock has this. They need to make their money to pay to keep Walt Disney's head frozen. Is basically what he's saying. So he's not far off. That you think that's cheap. Ask Ted Williams' son.
Is that true?
Just to
kidding, right?
It's a rumor that he was frozen. To wait for. What did he die of? Like lung cancer. So he's like waiting for them to either that or in like 100 years, he's just going to get thought out to have one more cigarette. And then he's like, all right, now I'm good.
The way it works, and I only know this because I wrote a fictional book set based on cryogenics. I did. And so I was researching this. And one of the things that kept coming up was Walt Disney. The way it works is the way that it's set up is that they literally have to sever your head from the body, and it can't be too much longer after you've died because there still needs to be something.
And then something.
It needs your brain.
Amount of life. And so what they do is they take just the head and they put you on ice. And they put you in a container, and it's actually a thing, and a lot of people can pay to do it, not just.
So you're saying in cryogenics they do this with everyone?
Anyone who pays.
Like
cryogenically, yeah.
So Vanilla Sky, that was all just a big joke.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's very different in reality. But they do it, yeah. There's obviously no one's been brought back yet.
Yeah, how could you bring back someone?
Well, the theory is that you wouldn't actually bring them back into the body. You would bring them into it's more about how would they ever transfer the consciousness.
Like an LMD.
I was just going to say, this is my solution. A Walt Disney LMD. That's what we need.
So that's the reality of cryogenics. It does exist.
Wow. And Rachel,
you guys. That was a really dark turn.
And Rachel, let's promote the book you wrote about.
Oh God.
What was the name of it?
It's called Frozen in the Night.
Oh,
stop it.
I'm so glad I asked. You would think that I knew that that's what it was. And I love that.
And I took creative liberty. My cryogenics is a little bit different and more fictionalized, but in order to create a fictional version of it, I had to do research and find out what they actually did.
Well, I love every part of that, and I want to be frozen so that I can talk about Marvel long after I'm dead. I just want I'll just be a floating head, like on Futurama when they have like Nixon's head and stuff. That's basically what I want. There is so this Mulan announcement came from a Disney shareholders meeting that the guy who's pretending he's in charge, Bob Chapek, but we know it's still really Bob Iger. He talked about this and how focused they are on these Disney Plus Marvel shows. That they're really counting on them and they are going to finish them. But I'm reading about films that are back on like the new Jurassic Park or the new Jurassic World movie, they're back on set and they're filming it. And we've heard about these Marvel shows finishing. So I feel like they'll finish. I think the bigger problem for these shows, we already know they're going to be on Disney Plus. The bigger problem is for movies and where to put them and when people will see them. And, you know, I mean, the release date calendars are also screwed up into 2021, that at some point you're going to get back into production, but then you're like, yeah, we still have all this old stuff too. So I think we see that, but so we feel like they're committed to all these shows, but I think that it's hard to really predict when they're going to come out. Disney Plus let us know when Mandalorian season 2 is coming out in October. So now they don't need the Marvel stuff to trick you into staying subscribed. So I feel like none of it's going to come this year. They're like, no, you got Mandalorian. You don't need Falcon and Winter Soldier. Maybe that comes right after Mandalorian, but by that point it's Christmas and you forget to cancel it. That's what they really want, you know? And by the way, hubby Joe really is a fan of Frozen in the Night. He says it is an awesome book. So.
He has read it.
Hubby Joe said he read it. So
Oh.
In any case, look, I don't know. There's not really news about those shows, just the fact that they are counting on them. Let me ask you first, Rachel.
I thought the news was fabulous was the only news.
Oh yeah, there's not a lot of news. Don't worry. That's why we'll let Rachel go in a few minutes, and then Michael and I will talk about the Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie for a minute. But what do you think, Rachel, about these shows? Like, how important is this to Disney? We're talking about what they're not getting income from right now. Subscriptions are great on Disney Plus. I guess they could always be higher though, right?
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. I think that they're going to take a hit, but I don't think it's going to hurt them in the long run. This is Disney. They're an empire. I'm not concerned for them in terms of production resuming. I know, like I've covered The Young and the Restless separately, obviously, and they are returning to production over at CBS. So if they're returning, I am sure that there are a ton of other shows following suit, and that it is, Hollywood has deemed it safe to do so at this point. So I know that, like, even, this is LA. I know, like, shows like The Witcher were already resuming production elsewhere. But I guess my point is that I'm not concerned that Disney is going to take a hit. And I feel like they already had enough completed where they will be able to kind of move forward without getting much of a hit, especially compared to other companies out there that don't have the resources that Disney has. So I'm not worried for them. I'm sure we're going to keep getting people, and yeah.
I don't think we have to be worried about Disney at all.
Let's start a Kickstarter.
If anything, it might give them a chance, like that we had these last 3 months where they really weren't able to go into production, and so maybe they'll make some of the scripts a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I mean, you hope. I mean, they redid the entire score on Black Widow. They've they've used the opportunity to some extent. I don't know. I mean, I think that they are definitely committed to these shows being big. I mean, Michael, how excited are you for these Disney Plus shows? Like, would you subscribe to them just for those, or will you wait for them all to be up and then just do like a free week and just binge them all in one super long night?
I already have Disney Plus.
Okay.
Given the fact that that's why I picked up on DC Universe, I wanted to see all the new shows. I would say I probably would. But honestly, the only shows that I'm really looking forward to are WandaVision and Hawkeye. That's like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that WandaVision, just the nature of it being such a weird premise and just no idea what it is. It's funny because there is the news about reportedly casting Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop, which I remember having that news last year. But then she has this other Apple TV or Apple Plus show, is I think what it's called, and it was in first position. So you know, just the way that's boring contract talk, but she just couldn't be the star in another show when she had this other show to go and do. So they've written that show, the Hawkeye show. So it seems like they just waited for her to come back around because there was no rush. And as it turns out, there's already a backlog on this stuff. To that point, Daniel Drew brings up 2021 and 2022 were already huge with MCU releases. So he thinks everything will shift a whole year. I mean, that's a very realistic, that like Black Widow comes out, whatever, April 30th of next year instead of May 1st when it was supposed to come out this year. Could just be that simple that everything moves a year. But, you know, you just have to feel confident that in May you're able to do it, because at some point you're going to open movie theaters, but you just wonder like which of them can stay afloat, your big chains, your small independent ones. So I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see, but you know, when I was talking about the movies that are going back in front of the cameras and shows and things, Shang-Chi is filming again because, you know, they were filming in Australia, and I mean, Australia is having their own flare-ups of the virus, but they're able to be in production. So I don't know. What do you think, before we have to let Rachel go? Let me ask you first again. Where do you think the next year looks like in terms of Disney Plus and also MCU movies in the theater?
I literally think that they could just switch everything a year forward. The problem is we don't know what is going to happen with COVID yet and when things will be clear for us to do so. So I guess theoretically, if things are clear by next May, then we could just literally switch and just, you know, basically give everything a 2021 release date. Just kind of shifted it that year forward. But I don't know that we're going to be okay by next spring. Just with everything going on, I am not optimistic. So I almost think it might be longer than just a year shift forward, and that they might keep setting these dates only to have to move them forward again.
Well, the president keeps saying it's going to go away.
Well, yeah, and there's a conversation for another show from Apple that we do on this network. We do now on the Blackcast YouTube channel, the Trump Report. We have talked about that. Look, I think that if you read about vaccines and treatments, that's all well and good, but you know, you still have people that aren't going to take it, and that's not going to make it go away for a large part.
Anti-vaxxers.
And we have a vaccine that actually works.
Yeah. And by the way, the threshold for vaccines that work is like 75%. So, so then that would still spook enough people to be like, yeah, but it's like, okay, great. I can be outside. I can walk around. I can go into work. But do I want to take on the added risk of going into a movie theater, even at 25% capacity?
Now, I will add this though, and definitely not to be political on here, but I know someone who just recently flew on an airline. I will not say the name of the airline. They crammed people into that plane. So I guess my point is that if they're going to be doing this right now, I'm just wondering when they might actually be able to open up theaters again, considering you have more of a chance of social distancing in a theater than you do on a crowded plane. But
yeah, I mean, I think that it's a valid point that, especially can the theaters operate at like 25% capacity? Because I feel like that level of spacing, you have more people who are happy. Michael doesn't want to go to the movies.
Well, you know my theory. They're just going to have one movie. It's going to be in every theater.
Yeah, right, exactly. 16 screens of Black Widow with like 20 people in each screen. Yeah. Great. Sign me up. Anyway, so that's really the news. I mean, there were some other little things that people keep getting tricked by fake Disney Plus releases. Like there was one for New Mutants, there was one for Black Widow. Maybe Google for a second source sometimes when you read something. But anyway, Rachel, we didn't get to talk about S.H.I.E.L.D. on this show, but people will be able to see you, myself, Tehran, and Katie talk about what's not really the penultimate episode. It's the penultimate airing of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that was on last night. They'll be able to see that tonight at 9 right here on the Blackcast YouTube channel, which is where you can find the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after show. And then next week is the big series finale. So let me announce here that we'll be doing a special show next Wednesday at 11 p.m. Pacific. And yes, I know that's 2 a.m. Eastern. But after the show airs here on the West Coast, we'll do a live show, which everybody will be able to just watch the next day or, days after, whenever you want to. But for our sake, we want to react to it live. So you can see us tonight. You can see us next Wednesday. And that's where you'll be able to see us. But if people want to keep in touch with you, Rachel, how do they do that?
You can find me one of two places: over on Twitter at Rach Goodman, which is where most of my acting and everything I post about the podcasts and etc. Or you can find all my writing stuff on Instagram at Rachel Radner Author.
Well, thank you, Rachel Goodman Radner Author, and thank you, Hubby Joe. I hope that things are well at the house and that neither of you are frozen in the night. But Rachel.
Oh, he didn't read your book.
That'll be a little frozen. Now you're gonna have to quiz him on the book and make sure he read it. Rachel, I will talk to you tonight, and we'll see you back here also next week. Thanks. So, Michael, before we got started, this is not movie news, but you showed me something that you had bought, and you weren't sure if we wanted to talk about it. I want to spend a moment on this. So, because anytime that I can rant about something like this, I will.
Yeah.
So, you have what is the latest issue of Marauders, right?
It's the first issue. 11? It's the first issue of Marauders, but it's a variant. It's very special. It's got our girl Kitty Pryde with her tattooed knuckles and her baby boy.
I love seeing Lockheed. I thought that was the one you sent me about how she is no more. You had sent me. No. I realize now that. So apparently, Kitty is no longer alive in the comics, and as I told Michael, if I don't read that story, it's not true for me. It's just like I never read about Mephisto undoing Peter and Mary Jane's wedding. I didn't read it, so it didn't happen. So that's how I look at that. I had heard that Marauders book was actually pretty cool, and the fact that Kitty ended up there kind of made it intriguing. But I don't know. I mean, Jean Grey stayed dead for 5 years. I don't even think Cyclops has died. Cyclops has died a few times. He hasn't stayed dead for 5 years. Wolverine, they've tried to kill him, but
you can't.
Like, you just can't. So I don't know. Does anybody really stay dead?
Hold on. I was gonna say Morph, but he came back in Age of
Even
Apocalypse.
Morph came back.
I think.
Yeah. Even Morph came back.
I'm kind of like you. I'm such a sucker for a good cover, and
that's a great cover.
He's doing all of them. His last name's Daughterman, and I love this one of Calypso, and this great one of Bishop.
That's a great Callisto.
And they all look so pretty together. I just really like these covers a lot.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some good stuff going on out there. And by the way, I don't think he's here anymore, but Hubby Joe points out that he did read the book. We'll see. We'll find out. Well, we'll get him to play 20 questions about the book and see how much he knows. So I don't know. I think that there's some interesting things going on in comics right now, and there's this ongoing Empire event that these big crossover events are very hard to keep track of. Yeah, but I don't know. I like, it's a lot of times like I'll buy stuff because of the cover. Like I was talking before we started about Moon Knight being in the Avengers. I'm like, oh, that's a cool Moon Knight cover, and I bought it just based on that. I will, I think maybe in a couple weeks, I'll get a few comics that I have gotten in the last month that it's really just because I'm like, oh, that's a cool cover, which is kind of the way I guess it's supposed to work. Yeah. But anyway, so the final thing that I wanted to talk about is a movie that you haven't seen, Michael, which is the original Punisher movie with Dolph Lundgren, a website called Inverse. The title was The Punisher 1989 Review, A Worse Origin Story Than X-Men Origins Wolverine. That's a really tough call. It might be true. It might be true. I mean, X-Men Origins Wolverine is bad, but I still contend.
I really did not enjoy that movie.
No, but I still think Liev Schreiber was good as Sabretooth in the film. In a bad movie, I thought we got a good performance.
You know how I feel about recasting.
Yeah, well, so now he's got to be Sabretooth forever. But Taylor Kitsch as Gambit did not work at all. And oddly enough, this Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool did not work either. But we did get the good Deadpool from him. So that was good. But I mean, here's the thing. X-Men Origins Wolverine still has Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. So it's going to be better than this Punisher movie. Because Dolph Lundgren, you just
want to hate on Dolph?
Look, he's great in Rocky IV. And obviously that Masters of the Universe movie is a classic in its own right. Kemme Egan says Dolph Lundgren as a Punisher was horribly funny. You're not wrong there. It was very, I loved the character of the Punisher so much because let's see, when that came out, I think when it was first released, it was really more like 1987 or whatever, but I was like 12 when I saw it. So maybe that is when it came out. It was 89, I guess. And I love that character so much. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. And I think people should check out that movie just to see how bad it is, and maybe it'll make you appreciate what was the one Punisher Warzone, the one with Jigsaw.
I really liked that first one,
the Thomas Jane one. I thought was good. Yeah,
but I watched it not too long ago, and it doesn't really age well.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
I love both seasons of the TV show. I do love this character, but this movie is not good. So everybody should go.
Everyone should watch it then.
Hubby Joe is still here, but he's not sure why. So we appreciate that. Thank you. People should watch it as like a homework assignment, and then we'll all talk about it somewhere in the future. But it's not good, but it's just a reminder as to like what comic book movies were at a certain point, specifically what Marvel movies were, because you have this 1990 Captain America with this guy Matt Singer as Captain. The Red Skull's a little inconsistent. There's a lot of great memes that come from that. There's a lot of like catchphrases. There's like a thumbs up of Cap saying, "Mr. President, thanks." So you get stuff from that, but it's like, it just reminds you how important the Tim Burton Batman movie is, because that was just like, no, you can take this stuff seriously and make a really good movie. And that's how, for Marvel fans, X-Men was so important, the X-Men 2000 and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. It's like when you started, you can have fun, but it can't be like the 1966 Batman. It can't be the Joel Schumacher Batman movies, which they reverted to. So we had really bad Marvel properties on screen for a long time. The animation they started to get a handle on in the 90s, and I think that led to us being able to get them. X-Men the movie?
The original one?
The first one,
excited.
Yeah, the first one, you can see where they cut corners on the budget. The second one's my favorite. I think they spent a lot more money on the second one. I think the second one was a lot better. And
I don't know why they fired Halle Berry's accent coach then.
Yeah. Well, look, there's definitely a lot of problems, but like seeing that movie in the theater, the first X-Men movie was, I still felt good after it. Even like 30 minutes through the Daredevil movie, I knew that the Daredevil movie was not good. It took a full half hour for me to realize it, but even then
Famke Johnson, that was just really, really hard for me because Jean is, she's my, like, Kitty is for you, Jean is for me. And
what did you think of What did you think of Sophie Turner as like a?
Oh, I hate her too.
All right. Well, maybe third time's a charm. Whoever they cast to play Jean next.
You know who I want, and you always say I'm so crazy for saying Christina Hendricks.
I just think she's too old to be Jean.
Oh
at this
yeah,
point.
I mean but I don't know. I think
she's great though. I mean, I think Christina Hendricks is great. Yeah, back in the day, that yeah. I mean, but I don't know. I think that for the X-Men, they probably should just go with unknowns at this point. Because it's going to be too hard to But who knows? They're not really in that business. They're in the business of putting movie stars in movies. Anyway. Michael, we didn't talk about S.H.I.E.L.D. here, and I know you're disappointed, but we'll be back in a couple weeks on this show, and you'll finally get to vent about the series finale. Next Wednesday at 9 p.m., 8 p.m. Central, 2 hours of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and after that, you'll be able to find myself. And when I made the announcement, I forgot to mention that our friend Zach Wilson will be back for that. So we're going to talk about S.H.I.E.L.D. at 11 p.m. right afterwards for a special S.H.I.E.L.D. live show. So make sure you check that out. But Michael, if people want to keep in touch with you, where do they do that?
Right there. I hate Michael Shirley on Instagram and on Twitter, Michael X Shirley, until they give me enough letters to write. I hate Michael Shirley. Yeah.
And then I'm right there at Christian DMZ, and you're watching this on my YouTube channel, the Blackcast YouTube channel, where you can find my podcast, The Blackcast, which is also at blackcast.com, BLADTCAST.com. If I was smart, I basically would have actually just written it out and just done this. I mean, I'm not that smart though. So I would just have done that. I'm like, yeah, just go to blackcast.com. How about that? Anyway, Michael, thank you for taking the time. Let me know when you watch the Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie.
I forgot about it. Now I'm kind of wanting to see it.
Well, let us know in the chat if you get a chance to watch it. But we will talk to everybody. We'll see people live Wednesday night after S.H.I.E.L.D., and we'll be back here in a couple of Thursdays as well. Until then, as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior.